Call this meeting to order. Meeting for the Driver Ed Advisory Committee on August 21st, 2018. Welcome everybody. I appreciate everyone being here. We recognize the fact that a lot of you have driven some distance to get here, so we appreciate your time and your sacrifice to help us out. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Restrooms are right outside here, and we always tell people they're kind of behind the bank of elevators. On either side of the elevator, there's a hallway, and if you follow that hallway, there's a little alcove, and you'll see the restrooms right there. They're located directly behind the bank of elevators, so just follow either one of those hallways back. We ask that your phones be put to silent or vibrate. If you need to take a work-related phone call or anything, by all means, just go ahead and leave the room. Take your call out in the hallway. There's no need to ask for permission or anything like that, but if we could just make sure they're on vibrate or silent, I would appreciate that. There are snacks and refreshments over here. There's water, there's sodas, there's all kinds of other snacks. Please take them. We have to figure out what to do with them if you don't take them at the end of the meeting, so by all means, help yourself, and when the meeting's over, take one for the road. We'd be happy to not have so much to clean up afterwards, so I appreciate you guys doing that for us. I want to go ahead and get started with a roll call. This is the first meeting where we have a lot of new members of this committee coming in, and so we're going to be talking about a lot of procedural things and talking about our purpose, and Mr. Logan will be talking about a lot of the procedural changes that have happened between the last meeting and now to get everybody kind of up to speed with what we've been working on. But what I want to do is kind of start with just a roll call. If you could just say your name and what organization or what school district you represent. I am the chairman. My name is Devin Tanner, and I am here in Wake County. I'm the director for driver education for Wake County Public Schools.
Fentress Chestnut, manager, North Carolina Driving School. We serve a numerous amount of school systems in North Carolina.
Great. Thanks.
I'm Marvin Smith, Marvin Smith Driving School. I'm a contractor with Stanley and Montgomery counties for driver ed service.
Shanae Flood, Division Director for Non-Public Education.
Michael Newsom, I'm with Department of Transportation, DMV Driver Services. I serve as a district deputy manager for the Raleigh General area.
Tanya Easterwood, Driver Education, Business Analyst, and I serve the entire state.
Excellent.
Reggie Flight, retired. Came back to DPI to work on a special project dealing with instructor qualifications, instructor certification.
Carl Logan, I am the driver education consultant for the DPI.
Ben Matthews, I'm Chief School Operations Officer for Public Schools of North Carolina, and I work for Carl Logan, Tanya Easterwood, and Reggie Flock.
I'm Martin Rickman, first-time member, Cumberland County Schools, 43 years, involved with driver's ed.
Jeff Moore, Department of Public Instruction, Transportation Consultant in the school bus section.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Martin. I'm representing the North Carolina PTA, and I'm based here in Wake County. I have 2 children that are graduates of driver's education program, and fortunately feel that they got a strong start.
I'm Terry Robinson. I work for the North Carolina Highway Patrol. I'm a captain, and I work in our field operations section just across the way. Patrol headquarters.
Brandon?
Brandon Simmons, North Carolina Virtual Public School.
All right. And then anybody that is on GoToMeeting, if you would go ahead and just state your name and what organization you represent.
My name is Thomas Young. I work in the Dow County Schools, and I'm representing the in-house driver's education programs.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. And I just want to acknowledge we have a lot of this committee has turned over with regard to appointment from last meeting to this meeting. And so I just want to acknowledge the new members of our committee that are on here, and some of you are here and have already introduced yourself. But we have from the Department of Transportation, we have Mark Izell, Dr. Cheryl Leonard. Neither one of them are here. They had scheduling conflicts. Stephen Lowry, Department of Transportation Highway Safety. Michael Newsom, Department of Motor Vehicles, Driver Services. From the Department of Non-Public Education, Dr. Shante Flood. Law Enforcement, Captain Terry Robinson. Our LEA coordinators and teachers are Thomas Young from McDowell and Marvin Rickman from Cumberland County. Commercial Driving Schools, Fentress Chestnut, Director of Operations for North Carolina Driving School. Our UNC Highway Safety Research Center, Natalie O'Brien is not with us at this point, but she is our research associate from the University of North Carolina Highway Safety Research Center. She is new on the committee. And our university or community college representative, Doug Eller from Wilkes Community College. And our new PTA representative, Sarah Martin. Grateful to have you here. All of you that are new and have agreed on this assignment. What we do is very important in our eyes. We have a lot of different stakeholders from around the state, not just driver education instructors that affect the teenagers and the young people in our state with regard to safe driving. And so we appreciate everyone being here and focusing on better ways to save lives, better ways to instruct our young ones with regard to safe driving. And that's really what we're here for. You should have a piece of paper called Driver Education, North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee. It looks like this, and it was one of the handouts over here. And there's a couple of things I just want to, I want you guys to go ahead and read this on your own time. This just goes over kind of our responsibilities, the types of things that we do. But I would like to focus on the first couple here. If you'd look at number 1 on this, and I'm just going to read it real quick. The purpose of the North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee, or DEAC, shall be to advise and make recommendations to the School Board of Education through the North Carolina... I'm sorry, excuse me, we've got a fire alarm. Carl?
Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell.
Okay, we will be adjourning the meeting until further notice.
Do not use the elevator.
Legislative Building, General Assembly.
Attention.
Yeah, you leave yourself. Nobody bother.
We will use the stairs and go across to the Legislative Building.
Stairwell. Exit
Be sure to take your ID with you. Take your ID with
Do not
you.
use the elevators. Do not use the elevators.
You see what you did, Marvin?
Hey, yeah. I'm just saying.
You're not supposed to move. Didn't anyone tell you?
Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators. Attention. Attention. A fire has been reported in this building. Using the nearest stairwell, exit down out of the building. Do not use the elevators. Do not use the elevators.
drove some, but he didn't know the rules of the road and all that.
That's right. And you know, it's not as comfortable to turn around and look and all that when you get that age, so
Yeah.
it's a little difference. And we
Thomas, you're not on, are you? Lost him. That's okay.
That was a little impromptu interruption of our committee meeting, huh?
That's the first time. Well, I think all these drinks are gonna go pretty quick now.
Yeah.
Well, can you get Terry to bring in more water?
We drank it
When
up
she
already?
gets up?
Did you make an announcement that we will be back in session here in just a few minutes?
Hey, how you doing? I asked if there was anybody on. There is none.
We lost Sylvia's on.
Okay.
Where Sylvia is.
Pick that can.
So we need more water then?
She picked that good.
Yeah, if everybody's gonna have some, then we need more.
Somebody up there.
I think she dropped it on the way out.
She was running to the
She
door.
was startled by that alarm.
There's a fire in the building.
Yes, sir.
My name's Marvin Smith.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Good to meet you.
Uses a fire drill.
My wife, Vicki Smith, retired from True Base.
Okay.
It's been, gosh, about 8 years ago.
Oh, great.
Page 86 and everything.
What's wrong, David?
Huh?
What's wrong?
She,
Nothing that-
next week. Well,
Nothing that
sure.
concerns you, I hope, but I have another meeting tomorrow, a regional meeting tomorrow at Wake, and
Work 2 days.
that building is now unusable because the AC just went down today.
My
Carl.
gosh.
How long does she work for the patrol?
She's not there 30 years. She was started ALE in Fayetteville. And when they opened H6, she applied for the administrative assistant job and got that. She stayed there till the last day she retired.
That's so good. Does she know our new Dawn Williams?
Oh, yeah.
You know Dawn Williams? She was our secretary up in F5, County.
Oh, yeah, I got to meet all of those ladies. All the time in touch with them back.
Dawn came over from the ALE as well.
Jordan
Yeah.
Driving School, I can ask over there.
Time with us.
We can have their meeting room.
Super great.
Barner.
I love it.
They were a great bunch of ladies. I mean, they-
Secretaries make go run, man. Without a good secretary, you're in trouble as a
Yeah.
first sergeant.
Vicki told folks, they asked what she did for a living. She said, I take care of 20 little boys that carry guns.
Y'all know y'all conversations are
That was
live.
her answer.
That's so true.
The conversations are live.
We're still streaming.
Everybody does what
Yes.
they're supposed to do, gets all the stuff done.
I was just warning, I don't think
Can't beat it.
It's a good time to pick up.
She doesn't miss the 5 days a week, type thing, but she does miss it.
Have you guys live in Stanley County?
Yeah, live in Albemarle.
Okay, Albemarle. All right.
we need some Mountain Dew child.
I mean, that's a good place, isn't it?
Yeah, you been
Actually,
bringing
my
food.
Pat McSwain, who's wife of the local sheriff, because she was a driver's license examiner, and she'd go down to Aberdeen to fill in. He knew me and introduced us.
So McSwain.
Y'all alive.
Well, he retired after
10 till we'll start back.
Then we got Rick Burris, he followed McSwain, he was there for 8 years. And he got defeated in an election by a fellow George Burris. He got defeated in his own primary this year. So he was not a popular guy.
Yeah, evidently not. So he's running. Who do you think's gonna win?
Actually, a fellow Jeff Crisco.
This is Carl Logan with the Department of Public Instruction. We've had a fire alarm. We had to suspend the meeting. We'll restart at 11:50.
On the agenda.
will restart the meeting at 11:50.
I knew you guys knew some secret passageway, I just wasn't fast
No,
enough.
it's just, we adjoin it.
Hey,
It's a little bit to the north,
remember her name?
Diana?
Yeah.
east of us.
So what do you do now?
I've heard her in a good while.
She just dropped off the
Yeah,
face.
I've got a commercial.
Well-
I emailed her and I didn't get
I'm
anything back.
alone,
She had breast
a
cancer.
private school with
Yeah,
big
so
company
she
She was in
was-
remission.
I've also
Right.
contracted with Stanley and Montgomery County,
To my knowledge, no.
furnishing
I think
instructors
she's
for them.
had
I think their personnel headaches away.
Yeah.
They still furnish
She
the
was
classroom.
coming to these meetings even when she was going through treatment.
I just send the people in there
Brandon.
so they don't have to.
She is. Well, if you do hear from her, will you ask her if she could reach out to me?
Absolutely.
Just,
Yeah, yeah.
Some water.
Officers that do that off duty?
Um,
Any teaching for you off duty or anything like that?
I had one retired trooper, Willie Plumber, for a few years. And he lived down on the lake, but his heart was up in
Yeah, it's,
Newton. For about 2.5 years.
happens about once a year.
Got
But this one of the
Couple
AC's
of
not working. I'm not sure if
firefighters
that's
working.
related to what's going on or not.
Crossroads 2
law enforcement officers.
had an AC issue today.
There's several
They were
of them
evacuating
already.
out of there and there's smoke coming out of the compressor. So we have a meeting
And they're
tomorrow there,
retiring out
and
with
it's
the
unusable
ATD.
now. I just got an email saying we can't use our
Expressed
CR2.
some interest.
Really?
Yeah.
You know,
I had
Alan,
one trooper, David Jackson.
That's not good.
I really wanted him.
It is what it is. We just
Do you know what
He'd come
was
in
the
and talk
cause?
with the students.
there was smoke, something about the AC, so I assume maybe a
This guy
compressor
would-
burned out or something.
About 3 hours when he came back.
You need a meeting place?
We're gonna try Jordan Driving School.
Okay.
We've got a conference room there.
Snideville and them over in transportation have some
Yeah, he had photographs.
secrets over there. Rockport.
Yes, the mouth to ear, you know. My first, he started out, my first crash involved death. at night. You know,
Where at?
you could see the
yeah,
hurt.
on that rain, he just made a little.
It was really good. When he retired, he became deputy sheriff.
1 minute.
Bailiff in the courtroom. He didn't want to go back. And
We still missing a few?
Couple, yeah.
Marvin.
Marvin's here talking.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
You ready?
Not quite. Finish up your conversation.
But David, he and I are old car buffs. And he had a 67 Buick Skylark. It was
Carl,
pretty
you want
much
me to wait for
original,
Tanya?
but It was his father.
Yeah, 'cause I walked up the
Going up the
stairs.
road, a guy trying to go in the road and caught him right
It's
there
hiding
in
on fire.
I thought about that. The rear wheel of the car just literally ripped the rear axle on the rear end. And the load was so bad, it fractured two vertebrae.
All right, Marvin, we're gonna get going here.
He survived.
Okay, we're in our little recess, we're ready to go.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Some things are out of our control, I suppose. We'll go ahead and call this meeting back to order. We've got a few, I think, that are still out, but they'll be trickling in, including Tanya. So, Carl, do we have anybody on GoToMeeting at this point? Is there anybody on GoToMeeting? Okay.
There is someone in there. There's two in there.
Okay.
I think we lost Thomas, though.
Okay. Where we left off was at this North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee sheet. We were looking at that, and we were reading number 1. Let me just reread that real quick, just so you can get an idea of our purpose. Purpose of the North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee shall be to advise and make recommendations to the State Board of Education through the North Carolina Department of Instruction on the implementation of the North Carolina Driver Education Strategic Plan and other issues related to driver education and traffic safety.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
So is this June 2012 strategic plan, is that the most recent that I pulled offline?
Yeah, June 2012.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just look at A and B here. And by the way, our lifeline to the committee here is Carl Logan. So when we are going to put forth any measure to the State Board of Education, we do it through Mr. Logan, who will use his channels to get that done. Number 2, the duties of the committee are solely advisory. Duties of the DEAC shall be to, and I want to just focus on these first two, and you guys then later on in your own time can read the rest, but to advise and confer on matters pertaining to the establishment of rules necessary to carry out the duties of the driver education program and the implementation of the North Carolina Driver Education Strategic Plan. Carl, is it possible for you or Tanya to re-email out that strategic plan to everyone that may not have it at some point? Okay. All right, so watch for an email. We'll go ahead and email out that strategic plan to you. So between this meeting and the next, you can become a little bit more familiar with it. And then B, we review and update any guidelines for the operation of the driver ed program. One of the things that we have learned since we have started this committee is that we have 115 different LEAs around the state, and there are a lot of different ways in which LEAs administer their program. And so one of the duties of this committee, and especially we really rely on Carl Logan, as he has his thumb on the pulse of all 115 of those, maybe not all of them, but hopefully. Carl, do you want to go ahead and introduce our guests?
Thank you, Devin. It is actually a little deviation from the agenda. We have an honor and a pleasure to introduce the Deputy Superintendent who just walked in, Dr. Maria Petrie-Martin. She's a strong advocate for driver education and is actually a charter member of this committee. So, Dr. Petrie-Martin, if you would like to say something.
Well, I just want to say hello to everyone, and I'm sorry for that fire drill that we just had. We're all getting ourselves together from that. But thank you all so much for being here. And I do remember being a charter member of this group as a local superintendent. So it's very exciting to see the work continue on. And just know that at the superintendent and deputy superintendent level, we are here to support in anything that you need to make sure that this work goes forward. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your work on this committee previously and anything you can bring to us now.
So can I ask you another question, sir?
Go ahead, Captain.
So you said that there's 115 LEAs across the state.
That's correct.
And each one of them administers their program differently. What does that mean exactly?
I don't necessarily know about each one, but we know that you know, the shoe doesn't fit every foot here.
So you have a basic program that everybody has to follow, right?
That's correct.
I mean a curriculum per se.
We have approved a curriculum, which is a standard curriculum, which is the ATSIA 3.0 curriculum, or any curriculum that can step up to that standard, to that curriculum standard.
So they could use their own?
They could, as long as it adheres to the same standard as ATSIA 3.0's curriculum. Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Carl, did you have anything you wanted to say about that?
Just to follow up, is that the General Statute 115C-215 requires that Department of Public Instruction provide a program, and we set the guidelines through the State Board of Education on how the local districts administer their program. So there are guidelines set by the Department of Public Instruction through the State Board of Education.
Okay.
Okay. And then, again, if you'll turn this sheet over and look at number 5, I just wanted to make sure that we understand Mr. Logan's role with this committee. Number 5 says the driver education consultant from the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction shall serve as staff to the DEAC. If there are any measures or recommendations to the state school board, like I said, he is our line to get those things to the school board and voted upon. So we use him as staff for our recommendations to get those through, and for any other reason that we may feel we need his help here at the state level. But Mr. Logan has, since he's been here, he has very dutifully been out around the state. He is currently finishing up, what's the number, 8 or 9 regional meetings? 8 regional meetings this summer around the state. They've been traveling around and talking to LEA coordinators and other stakeholders in those regions, and have been working very hard to understand how driver ed is being implemented around the state, and what their needs are. And I can tell you, even just from personal experience, you know, the needs in Wake County, which we service upwards of 15,000 students per year, may be very, very different than you know, another county that may only service 500 to 1,000 kids a year. So just the sheer number of students around the county differs very widely, and so there are very distinct needs. So I'm grateful that we have Carl in that capacity to help us understand what is going on around the state. And he'll be explaining a little bit more to us some of the things that have come out of those regional meetings here in a little while. Okay. Okay. We have the minutes from the last meeting. Does everybody have a copy of those? Many of you were not here for that last meeting, but you should have the minutes there. And I would like to move to approve those minutes from the previous meeting. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Captain Robinson, motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, and Brandon, second. Excellent. So moved. And then at this point, I want to go ahead and have Mr. Logan give his update on both the Drive Red program and as well as DPI legislative update.
Did we kill it? Thanks, Devin. As you stated, we have been very busy over this past summer. I can't believe that it's already time to start school again. What I would like to do is go through, when we get our PowerPoints running, is just a few legislative changes. In the Appropriations Act of 2018, we had a few changes that affected driver education. We are still funded by civil penalties, fines, and forfeitures of the Division of Motor Vehicles. This was started last year in 2017. The funding for this year is the same as last year, $27,393,768. New to the statute is that LEAs cannot transfer money into or out of the driver education funding allotment. There was a clarification that DPI shall be the agency that oversees the program. Also, Department of Public Instruction can withhold funding up to 5% for noncompliance with reporting data that we have quarterly or other requested data that we have. Also, DPI may withhold 2% for administration. This year, our budget at DPI for driver education, where our office here, is $428,215. I've been kidding Tanya at the local workshops that most of that is her salary. Okay, the next one. And that would be our legislative report. Are any questions regarding that? So we'll move forward. As far as the policies, the state board policies that I was just mentioning, we started in, I guess it was March, and we went through the process of submitting the proposals or changes, recommendations to the state board on what we needed for driver education. I'm happy to say this, that we submitted nearly 40 edits or changes to the state board policies, and they were all accepted. And the comments that we received from the state board was that being that we had vetted these in the local workshops at the school level and with the rules committee as well as this committee, that they agreed with them, unanimous. So I was really glad to hear about that. So you can see that your work is appreciated. Any questions regarding those? I will say that the highlights of those changes are that the districts can or have more flexibility in when they offer the program during the school day or during the day. We are limiting the class sizes to 50 students, and all of those students must have appropriate seating, and the classroom needs to be in an appropriate setting. So those are some needed changes that we found as we visited across the state. questions? We'll move forward. This is somewhat of a review. The national standards, there are 5 areas that we focus, or that are focused on there. There's program oversight, education training, teacher certification, there's DMV collaboration or driver licensing collaboration, and also parental involvement. We have here in our office, we have narrowed our focus somewhat to the 3 here that you see on the screen: program oversight and teacher certification and education training. We have been presenting those projects at the workshop level in the districts here recently. In just a few minutes, I'll allow Reggie and Tanya to come up and tell you some things that we're working on specifically in their particular areas. Okay, next one. The Program Evaluation Division of the General Assembly recommended that DPI and the LEAs have more accountability as far as how the program was administered. They also recommended a full-time director and other personnel in the division. We also were asked to have a web-based system to collect the appropriate data from the districts involving enrollment and other items that we needed to provide support to the districts. We're also to conduct performance evaluations. And in just a few minutes, we will go over the performance evaluation or performance measures that we've created. Excuse me. And this committee will have an opportunity to adopt those. Those will go in the strategic plan. We're also to provide periodic reports to the General Assembly. Okay, so that's kind of sets the stage on where we are at this moment. Okay. Regarding the 3 areas that we were just talking about, the teacher certification area is the most critical at this point. In 2014, a survey produced that we had 1,604 teachers. Last spring, we have 1,142. We have one method of certifying teachers in the state of North Carolina. We have met with the American Driving Traffic Safety Education Association and ANSTI and a number of others, and we have devised a plan to create a teacher certification model. We have with us today Reggie Flythe, who was a former driver ed consultant here at Department of Public Instruction. We have solicited his services to come back and give us some direction and provide a program for us. And I'll introduce Reggie here just now.
Thank you, Carl. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you. All right, as Carl said, we have obtained permission from ANSTI, and what ANSTI is the Association of National Stakeholders in Traffic Safety Education. They have created a training module for teacher certification. Not only is this a need in North Carolina, it's a need nationwide because our universities are currently not producing driver education teachers anymore. They're losing the certification standards or the certification programs due to the, for several reasons. But we have a need in North Carolina to produce a training curriculum so that people have an option other than the DMV course that's offered that can certify driver education teachers. We are collaborating with the North Carolina Virtual Public Schools and Digital Learning to utilize tools that they have created to create the online portion of our training program. And we plan to provide the online training in 3 segments. The first one is going to be a theory component, which is the fundamental concepts of teaching and learning, driver education. And then the second one is specific to classroom teaching and learning. And the third one is teaching and learning theories for behind the wheel training. We have been in contact with Virtual Public Schools. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting with them this afternoon at 3 to debrief them on our findings that we got across the state. In addition to the online component, of course, you're gonna need some type of student teaching practicum. We will work with LEAs to establish classroom and behind the wheel teaching opportunities for new teachers. And we also have a need to assist those who are in need of recertification credits. LEAs will need to identify master teachers to go through DPI-led training for master teachers, and the master teachers will be credentialed to provide support for the hands-on that's going to be necessary for these new teachers that come through our program. In other words, the LEAs, and we've pretty much got 100% buy-in from them, from the standpoint of as they go through this online course that we provide here, which will provide 096, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but they have bought into the concept that after they go through the teachers go through the online component, that they will then go back to the LEA. If they're a classroom teacher, there will be some classroom instruction. You know, all of us who taught school did our student teaching. This will provide an opportunity for the LEAs to provide the teacher an opportunity to observe good teaching in their classrooms, and then allow that student teacher to teach the class. And we are trying to figure out how much that should encompass, how much time that should encompass. Should it be a whole class? Should it be 2 classes before we in turn certify them as a classroom teacher in the state? The other thing is the behind the wheel training. Behind the wheel training is different. DMV provides a course, but in that training module, you are training an adult. You're not training a 15, 16-year-old kid. And so we think that we have a good opportunity here to send these folks back to the LEAs. There are a couple of legal things that we have to work out and figure out how feasible that can be. But the thought process is for these folks to go back to the LEA, pair up with a mentor teacher, ride around and observe teaching being done in the car, and then get an opportunity to get over in that front seat and teach with the mentor teacher in the back. Whether it be 24 hours, 36 hours, 48, 60 hours, whatever it is, we're gonna try to do our best to come up with the appropriate amount of time that they're gonna need to go through the student teaching process. But teachers completing this course will receive driver education certification on their teaching license. We had a need for a question about non-teachers or paraprofessionals. The DMV rules currently allow for non-certified teachers to teach driver education in the state if they take the 80-hour DMV course. So we want to look at how we can parallel that as far as the DPI licensure is concerned. We are working closely with the Division of Motor Vehicles to allow anyone completing our teacher training program to be licensed by DMV to teach in commercial schools. I don't know exactly how that will work, but we are in consultation with them. And the ultimate goal is to train driver education teachers through this teacher training system that will satisfy the needs of both DPI and DMV. While we are creating this, we have the opportunity to create a model program that can be used, and there is a need because, again, East Carolina University was the last teacher credentialing system where you could go and get a driver education certification, and that no longer exists. So we do have a need. This course, you know, no disrespect to our DMV current course, we like what they do, but this course will be a little more intense, and it will be more broad than the current 8-hour course. It will be longer in duration. But the fact of us having an online component will make it hopefully more feasible for people to take it. One of the problems one of the challenges that we have with the current DMV course is that course is offered in 2 weeks, 2 straight weeks from 8 to 5. And it's difficult for people in outlying areas to, first of all, get to the course, to be able to take the course. Sometimes it's difficult for them to get off work. So we're trying to meet the needs of people in our state who would love to become driver education teachers. And we want to provide a model training program that will meet and exceed the current standards. And also, this is designed to meet the standards. And I don't know if everybody knows, but you will hear more about the national standards and the state assessment that we underwent in 2015. One of the things that assessment said was we needed to come up with a standard system of qualifying and teaching our driver education instructors, and that's what this is designed to do. So with that, that's just a brief overview. I went through it pretty quickly. Do you have any questions about what it is we're trying to do?
So, yeah, I'm new to the committee, so
Yes,
I'm just
sir.
trying to educate myself. I've
Absolutely.
read a little bit of material prior to coming to try to prepare a little bit and whatnot. But, so basically, the LEAs can choose whether or not they want to have their own driver's education program, correct?
Correct. We call those in-house programs.
Right.
You
So
can
how
have an
many-
in-house program done by in-house staff, or you have the ability to contract with a private driving school to provide that training within the boundaries of your LEA.
How many LEAs have their own in-house?
It's a little bit over half that are privatized.
Okay.
We will have the exact numbers for you. We probably do have those, but I don't have them in front of me right now at the present time. But there are more private than in-house programs.
So the current people that are, or teachers that are participating in the in-house driver education programs, they've been through the DMV program? Have they're certified currently, or they're certified by some body or whatever, right?
Correct.
Currently, right?
Everybody who's currently teaching is certified. I'm dual certified. I took the East Carolina course, and I also took the DMV course. I took the DMV course first. I worked with Wake County Schools or Jordan Driving School back in 1996, who contracts. Okay, so I went through the 80-hour course as a teacher. I was a teacher, went through that course, and got employment with a private driving school. There are some LEA in-house programs that there's a teacher there that will go and take the 80-hour course, and then they are given a credential, and then they are hired by the LEA. What used to happen was everybody had to go through either East Carolina University, North Carolina A&T, or Appalachian State, and put it as a part of their teaching license.
Gotcha, I read that, yeah.
Okay, so now since 1992, we are where we are. There are less people going through that teacher credentialing system at the university level, more people going through the DMV course. However, there is a need to, a lot of folk want to have 096 on their teaching license, and right now there is no way you can get it. So we want to provide that opportunity for people.
It's good, yeah. So, go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I'm good, sir, go ahead.
Okay, so Reggie, everybody works for Marvin is certified.
Everybody that works for Marvin is certified through the DMV.
Okay.
And there are some good things about that, because they have to have, one of the things you have to do in a commercial school is you have to have 64 hours of continuing education credits in driver education to renew your instructor license every 4 years.
Every 4 years, that's right.
There are some staff that we have currently teaching driver education. They got it on their teaching license, but there is no 64-hour component that they have to have specifically for driver education. In other words, if they teach math, science, social studies, or history, they can get their certificate renewed in those areas and still be able to teach driver education. So we're looking at that entire component not only certification, but recertification, so that folk that's out there, that we will have opportunity to provide them with the newest and the greatest and that kind of thing. So there is a need for what we're doing. Yes.
So what you're talking about with the private instruction, that's true for all private instructors in the state?
All of them.
Okay, so they're all held to the same standard?
They are.
Okay, so all of them would be certified through the DMV program, is my understanding?
They have to maintain, once they are licensed and work with a commercial driving school, they have to maintain that level of recertification every 4 years. If they don't, they lose their ability to teach.
Okay.
So oh, go ahead, ma'am.
Well, and then if they, for some reason, lose their ability to teach, is there a reinstatement process for them?
There is.
Okay.
So so you're still trying to work out, you said, the time frames or the hours, number of hours you're going to require for the program that you're attempting to develop? And
correct.
Recertification as well. So it's going to, of course, meet the standards, of course, according to the strategic plan and the current policy and all that, but you
absolutely
have to work out the time frames and so on.
Absolutely.
So it would be probably commensurate with the current DMV, or it could be a little less?
Right now, we're looking at the course will run at a minimum of 120 hours.
Gotcha.
And determining, and again, I think the piece that we're going to look at mostly is how much time we want these folks involved in the student teaching process, in the classroom specifically, and then specifically for behind the wheel, because there is a need. We don't want to put new people, and my thought is we don't want to put new people in a teaching role that hadn't had some supervision. Now, the other thing about Mr. Logan and what he does, there are 115 different LEAs, and some of these private schools, Marvin and Mr. Chestnut, run both. When they get new instructors from DMV, they already have a system in place that they currently use to match these folks up with. So it's nothing new what we're really talking about, but we want to make sure that we have the standard set, a minimum standard set, so that we make sure that we're putting quality folks in the driver ed cars and classroom.
Well, wouldn't it be better and more productive potentially, and I don't know, maybe this is a discussion for later on, but for DPI to be the sole governing body for public and private entities and be the sole keeper, if you will, of that program to ensure that the standards are adhered to per DPI's guidelines and so on and so forth? I don't know. Maybe y'all have talked about that before. Maybe it's a hot button topic.
I'm going to yield to Mr. Logan.
Okay.
Thank you, Captain Robin. Since I want to make sure that we're answering your question. DPI is responsible for the entire driver education program in the state of North Carolina. We partner with Division Motor Vehicles. In 1992, there was an allowance for the local education agencies to either use their in-house teachers or hire a private driving school or contract individually with teachers locally. Those teachers either had to have the DPI or state board licensure, or they have to have the DMV certification, one of the two. And that's in our policy. That's in state board policy.
Sure.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure I clarified that.
Yeah.
The requirement for the program is still through the state board policy that each LEA has to have a program. It has to adhere to the guidelines that we set. The state board policy does. The only allowance is that they could either contract teachers or they can use their in-house teachers. And what we're doing now is, in place of the training program that's at the college level, we're going to create a licensing program from DPI. Yes, ma'am.
And the thought process is there'll still be two programs. There'll be the DMV program,
No,
and there'll be the virtual.
Well, if we back up just a little bit, if we look at it from a broad point of view, there are two driver ed programs in the state of North Carolina. One is through Division Motor Vehicles, the other is through Department of Public Instruction. The one with Public Instruction is the one that we're talking about.
Okay.
However, we do work very closely with Division Motor Vehicles. So you have students who are enrolled in public, private, charter, and home schools take are allowed to take the program here through their local school. Those same students can also opt to pay a commercial school that is licensed by the Division of Motor Vehicles.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the difference in the program. Students who are enrolled in public, private, charter, and homeschools, and they're taking it at the local school system, there is no charge for the program except each LEA can charge up to $65. Okay, all right. So I think that's a good question because we've got new people that are here on the committee, and we'll make sure that everybody's on the same playing field. You have another question?
So if I wanted to become a driver education instructor, I would have the choice of going through the DMV program, which is a 10-day program, or doing the virtual public school program.
Once it's created, yes.
Right, okay.
Once it's created.
So there's still a dual pathway
Right.
to getting into the classroom to
Right.
teaching. Okay, that's what I was trying to understand.
Yes.
But again, it goes back to my question, what, is it better to have one entity in charge of that whole program, or is it, I mean, I guess it's been effective for years, you had two separate type of programs kind of overseeing the certification of driver's education instructors. Is it more beneficial to continue on that pathway or beneficial to have one governing entity? I don't know.
We are in communication with Division of Motor Vehicles. We have a quarterly meeting. We are working to align our the administrative code that DMV uses and the state board policy. We have discussed that very thing, and it would be kind of premature for me to say anything at this moment. But if I was someone else, general public, I would say that would be the best model.
Okay.
Yes.
The route that you might potentially take at some point.
Yes.
Potentially.
That would be.
Correct.
Marvin.
Point of clarification for, say, Mrs. Martin and the captain there. If you wanted to be a driver's ed instructor and start the process today, DMV is the only option.
Okay, I understand, because this virtual public school hasn't been
developed.
Right,
Right.
understand.
I think that'd be the way to go once it's developed.
Any other questions regarding teacher certification? As I stated, tomorrow we'll have our last meeting. It'll be in Wake County of these regional workshops. They were the last of 8, and we have discussed a lot of these things at the LEA level and a lot of suggestions, and that's where we will make recommendations to the State Board of Education if necessary. Also, and as we communicate with Division of Motor Vehicles, they will suggest changes to the administrative code. But the idea is to align the programs more centrally to where we have one basic program. Okay. All right.
Carl,
Yes.
next question. You know, we've got quite a few retirees
Yes.
that are certified teachers, but they don't want to go back into the classroom, but they do want to teach driver's ed. But every year, every 5 years, they have to get that 8.0.
Right.
Are you guys working on maybe lowering those standards to, say, 4 hours instead of 8? Because, you know, a lot of these retirees, that they just, you know, they don't want to go back into class, but they do actually want to teach driver's ed. If we lose any more retirees, it's going to be tough.
As we've stated in the workshops, we will get some clarification from licensure, and we will get that information out to them. Yes. Thank you, Mark. Okay, moving forward, the other area, or the second area that we're concentrating on is the curriculum. It is necessary to help to streamline the curriculum that we're offering out there, to make it in electronic form. So Tanya Easterwood, who is a valuable addition to the driver ed department here at DPI, her background is in project management and a lot of other things. And I like to say that she's the project manager and Reggie and I are the projects. So with her ability to manage these and her background in technology, she's going to help us to digitize the curriculum. I want to bring Tanya up, and she'll tell you some more about the curriculum part.
Good morning, everyone. And it's a handful to manage the two projects for Reggie and Mr. Logan, to say the least. I did want to make a couple of statements to go back just a little bit. And what you currently see now is a roadmap. So this will kind of speak to, hopefully you guys can see that, those letters. It might look a little dark up there in the red, but we can share this slide with you. But this is the roadmap that we had shared earlier in this year, and it has some timelines associated with it that identifies what, when, and how we're going to be doing things and delivering things as it relates to the program. So many of the things that Mr. Logan and Reggie spoke to earlier, they're already identified here in this matrix. And it's also a color matrix to it reference back to the 3 bullets that you saw earlier, the circles that kind of looks like a traffic light. That's what we have here. So red is always program administration, education and training, and then well, they'll be flipped, but education and training, and then other key, which is the teacher certification, recertification. But what that does is, as we're progressing through, these colors will always represent those key areas so that we can always stay focused on what's being delivered and what's not. So that'll kind of speak to it. So high level, these are some of those key dates. Also to speak to the budget. So it was very gracious of Mr. Carl to suggest that that $428,000 was just for me. However, that $428,000, what that really encompasses is, it does have some salaries there, but in order for us to get this work done, the 2 of us cannot do it, because if we would not sleep. So we are partnering with NCVPS, we are partnering with Digital Learning, which also includes the Power School team and SchoolNet. We're leveraging a lot of the things that are currently in the state. And so what that means is, many of the things that we're trying to transition is, how do we go ahead and purchase or the licenses and subscriptions for the technologies to move these components forward so that we can meet those deadline and dates that we're speaking to already. So as it relates to the teacher certification component, our hope is to have a pilot going next spring. Well, next summer. So in that summer month, how do we make that happen? DPI already has a Canvas instance here in the building. How can we leverage current contracts to push these projects forward so we're not reduplicating efforts? And so that's one of the things that we're spending it on, the accounts and all those things. That also the environment for the students, because we have the education and training components for the students. We need the technology in order for us to begin to put the curriculums in those areas. And then Reggie spoke about the curriculum that we already have that's approved. In order for us to utilize that curriculum, we have to have curriculum writers to take paper to digital format. And that's a process. That's where NCVPS comes in. They're actually like the 2nd largest online virtual school in the state. And in order for us to move forward, why do we need to recreate those processes in which they've already proven to be successful? We're going to leverage those. So that's where that collaboration comes in as well. So I know we do have an aggressive timeline or roadmap that you see here, but the reason we're able to kind of put those dates there and think and hold firm to it, and we'll adjust as needed. So every quarter we'll probably be presented it so you'll know if any of those dates change. But that's how we're able to put those dates forward, because with the collaboration of them already having these processes in place, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. This is also like the project slide that we shared. And so we have 2 separate projects. So you will see the teacher certification project scope on one side, and then the curriculum project on the other side, which is actually referencing the students. So at a high level, if you take a look at the deliverables under the standard curriculum, as we traveled the state this the last 2 weeks, we got some feedback on how to deliver the curriculum for the students, because we got a lot of things going on. So the thing is, we had to get input from our stakeholders. So with the teacher certification component being so critical with the number of retirees that we have made that our top priority. The online curriculum for the students is also critical. However, I felt that doing a phased approach would be better. So what we also agreed is we got feedback from the field, and they agreed we will continue to get the curriculums developed, but with the student side, we will hope to possibly just have the online component as an option for them to take the test in the classroom. So when they complete the driver's ed classroom portion and they get ready to take the test, that they can actually take the test in the classroom prior to going to DMV to help with some of those numbers at the DMV. That's our goal. And then the curriculum piece will be pushed back for a later time. Because whenever you are thinking you have to teach the students, before you can teach the students, you have to teach the instructors on how to utilize the technology, how to adopt it, get them comfortable. And so you don't want to bring so much at one time. So we did scale that back so that it's not too aggressive, but we do have things that are available so that everyone is successful as we're rolling out the project. And if we need to take another look and scale that back some more, we will, because at the end of the day, we do want successful projects, but we need successful people. And the only way a project can be successful is you have to make sure the people are going to be successful and the processes have to support that. So that has been scaled back to some degree, but those are our two major projects that we have going on that will impact many of us across the state. In addition to that, we do have two smaller projects, which will be, we need more visibility around driver education. So how do we build out our web presence? So we need a website. So our goal is to hopefully have a website and unveil a website January 1 as we're transitioning. Begin building out communication around that. And then also we need to establish a social presence. So in order for us to do that, we have to have some additional tools and people to assist with some of those components. Somewhat simple, but still they're smaller things, but those are some other smaller projects that we're trying to rally around. And so that will also help us get the information out and get the information to the field so that everyone is well aware of what we have going on. So those are some of the other projects that we have. So one of the, I don't see, just a second. Okay. So with the education and training, as I mentioned, NCVPS is the second largest online school. And when we're thinking about the teacher certification component and the student component, one of the things that Reggie is mentioning with the teacher component is the blended model. Online learning works best whenever it's blended. Some face-to-face and then some online. And so what that means for us is how do we maximize some of the mentors so that we're actually able to deliver the information in the best format. There may be some of the curriculum for the teacher certification component that they can utilize and do online. But then there's some mandatory components that they will have to do face-to-face. And that will actually help with the 10-day curriculum that's currently at DMV. It's a currently 2-week face-to-face process. So people have to take off 2 weeks to be present. So this allows more flexibility to allow them to complete the components that are needed. And then in addition to that, allow them to continue to go through that process. And how we're going to do that is leverage the online learning management systems that we have. DPI has an instance for professional development, which will be where the teacher certification process will be housed. And then NCVPS, of course, has a learning management system, which is Canvas, and they already know how to manage the online student. So just negotiation on part of that, but I just wanted to add some clarification around that so you guys will know how we're going to deliver that information. So my role is adopting the tools and technologies as simply as possible, adopting as many as we can that is currently in the building, and then leveraging those and pushing that information out and trying to make that make sense. Because at the end of the day, the business goal is still the business goal. The technology is just a tool to help push that goal forward and make everything kind of work more seamlessly and a little bit better. So as you can see, the phased-in approach is the online test, an online curriculum draft, fall 2019, and then an online curriculum pilot for the summer 2020. And when I'm speaking to this, education and training is specific to the student component. However, I am the technology person on the teacher certification component as well, so sometimes that might get a little confusing, but we are pushing those forward. But the teacher certification will be the primary one going first. But there will be a lot more information that will be coming around that. And then also we had discussed a online presence as it relates to a driver education manual. We got that approved earlier this year when we did the policies. And our goal is to also leverage SharePoint, which is one of the tools we currently use here in the building. And that tool, it will allow us to be able to push things out and possibly have a login for you guys to be able to get for the driver education across the state to get the information they need easily and available, so we won't have to use email. There'll actually be a system. So when we're talking about systems, those are the things that we're planning on building out and having available. The last thing I want to mention was the data. We did realize that we had about 88% participation this year. We were able to share those numbers across the state by region whenever we went out in the field. Hopefully, I'll be able to adopt part of that as our presentation here. Unfortunately, Tableau is not on this computer, so I couldn't show you the data, but I was able to have a state map using the Tableau data analytics, and you can hover over the county, and it will show them how many students did they train, how many behind the wheel did they train, what was their allotment, additional resources required. We do have some students that may require interpreters or anything like that. We need to be able to capture that data so it can actually tell our story. And so building those data analytics were critical, so counties were able to see that. And then when they notice, why does mine have a blank? Why does there a line there? That means I did not receive a report. So it made them more aware of what they are doing, and now it's making them say, oh, let me get that report in. You guys need this data. And we really do need the data to support the program, so we can begin allowing that data to be what lives for us, whether it's online or if someone needs to tap in to get the survey data for across the street at legislation. But we have to get the information there so we can begin getting information rallied around the driver education component in the program. But that concludes my portion of the presentation. Do you have any questions?
Just one question. For the certification course, are we considering charging for that, or is that going to be free to any teacher who wants to take it?
This first year, what we are doing is we're paying for, if you are a licensed teacher or currently in the state, you already have access to Canvas. So if you are not a certified teacher, driver education program is going to pay for those teachers so we can easily adopt the program. But once we begin leveraging and pushing that program out, we're having to build out what that cost will look like for the course. And the reason why is because we have to look at the user agreement that we have with ANSTIA so that we can make sure we're abiding by their guidelines. So we'll have more information to come as it relates around that as well. Thank you. Great question. Are there any additional questions?
Real quick. So the phased approach is strictly, you're talking about the student curriculum.
Yes.
The student portion of the online training.
That's correct.
So number one, the online test then, and this hasn't been brought up for quite a while, but there had been previous talk about driver education giving an exam whereby when the kids pass that they would be able to bypass the DMV exam. Is this that? I mean, is that the end game?
Our hope is that's what that is, but we have been in talks with DMV. We have not finalized, so we're very early in the stages. However, some of those talks around that test will be having the ability to which environments, that's why I mentioned PowerSchool and SchoolNet, which environments will be best for that test option for us to be able to get that information in and out of the system and then out of the system to DMV. So it really depends on what technologies they have available, but this is very early on, but those are our hopes, and this is all based on conversations we've had. I do know that they did a couple of updates, and there's some data fields available. I'm trying not to get too technical, but there are data fields available that may make this feasible. So we just need to make sure we have an export file, and hopefully DMV can pick it up. Just make sure the communication line is there, but we'll be working on that. And my goal is that will not be a manual process. I truly believe if there's data there, we do not need to touch it. Let the systems do what they do. So to do an export and then allow them to pick it up and bring it in, so when they get into the office, that information is there, but we have to work out the logistics for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you said PowerSchool and what else?
SchoolNet.
Okay, so what happens to the private schools and the home schools who have
those are the conversations we're going to begin having in the building. Okay. And so what that will also mean is, as we have identified, we do have the non-public identified as one of our key stakeholders. So when those conversations begin to happen, we'll be reaching out for and sharing more additional information. Thank you.
And I just want to say how happy we are that we found Tanya and that Tanya found us.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, thank you very much, Tanya. Carl, do you have a report on the back-to-school workshops, or have you pretty much sufficiently covered what you'd like to cover there? Okay. In the meantime, I do want to make, I want to note one change in the agenda here. We have provided information regarding the data performance measures with you. We've provided you the wrong document, and so what we are going to do is we are going to kick that back to the parking lot, essentially.
Devin, hold on.
Go ahead.
We're going to try to do something here real quick.
Okay.
We're going to try to put those up on the screen, but we will, the ones that you have there are not the accurate ones. But as far as the workshops are concerned, a couple weeks ago we did start off in Wilmington, and we met in Wilmington. We went to Fayetteville, Martin County, Greensboro, and Charlotte, and Catawba. Am I saying that right? Yes. Catawba, or was it? It was not Caldwell County. It was Hickory. Catawba County, and then we were up in Haywood County last week. There are over 50 people in attendance combined. We have had representatives from the districts, the coordinators, some teachers, some central office staff. We've had the North Carolina Highway Patrol and the Division of Motor Vehicles in attendance. Been some very, very good workshops to collaborate with this information. And so, as we've discussed before, is the information starts there, we bring it here, we vet it, and we make sure that it's in a form that we can submit to the State Board of Education. How close are we? Tomorrow, we will have our last workshop at Wake County. And if you're listening, we may have a venue change because they're having an issue at the building. Devin, is that correct?
That's correct. As I was leaving the district office this morning to come here, they were evacuating the building that we are going to have our meeting in tomorrow, and I didn't know what it was, but I just got an email saying the building will be unavailable tomorrow. Due to there was smoke coming out of the building, and it has to do with the HVAC. I don't know what's going on, but it will be unavailable. My hope is to move that meeting over, and I'll have further discussion with Carl about this. My hope is to move the meeting over to Jordan Driving School. There's a conference room there that can be used here in a pinch. So I'll be getting with them after this meeting to make sure that that's viable.
Devin.
Yes.
As a backup to that, I don't know how large a conference room you need, but you've been in the North Carolina PTA
yes.
Room, and I feel confident we could make that available on short notice if you need.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it. I'll be in contact with you.
Okay, thanks.
How about that?
I just wanted to add something to the regional workshops. This was my first year, of course, but as I went on the field, I learned so much. I've learned so much since I've been on board. But as we traveled the state, earlier Devin mentioned how the needs are different from one county to another. And it didn't matter what size or how many students the county was serving, they all had a different story. And the amazing part was getting to go visit to hear their story, and so many were represented around the table. And it's just amazing whenever you meet people where they are and you're allowed to hear from their perspective what's going on. It just changed my perspective and my lens on how big and how important the program is. But then also they were all excited. Even though technology can be scary, street, they were all excited about the teacher certification component and the student component. They're saying how much it was so needed, and they're excited for it to be here and how they want to be a part. They had so many people wanted to be parts of the pilot, and I just thought that that was really great to get to bring their heart back to this meeting to say, like, they're really on board. So I just wanted to make sure I shared and conveyed the hearts of the people that I got to meet while we were on the road, and just let you guys know, like, they are so excited about the program and what we're doing. The work really does make a difference, and it really does matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Devin, if we could move forward with the performance indicators.
Okay.
Just like all classroom teachers, when things are not planned, you have to figure out a contingency plan, and that's what we've done here. So the performance measures that you have in front of you are not the accurate ones. These are the ones that we are going to submit to you, the committee, today, and that being that we have a quorum, we would hope that you would adopt these, and these would go in the strategic plan once it's updated. If you remember, I stated that the General Assembly, the Performance Evaluation Division of the General Assembly recommended these to be in place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read each goal, the 3 of them, and then if there are any edits or changes that you see that needs to be done to that, if you would make a note of that or tell us, we'll make that here today. We would like to, Devin, at the end, move to adopt these, and then we'll move forward. If I have permission of the chair.
Yeah, move forward, please.
Move
Thank
forward. All right, goal 1, local programs will provide a driver education program to serve all eligible public, charter, private, home, and federal school students. 70% of the students will have the opportunity to experience a quality driver education program offered at the local level following the State Board of Education policy at age 14 and a half. Now, the reason we say 70%, that's about an average of how many students are taking the program, and that we are setting that as a bar. Without objection, we'll move forward. Student achievement is measured with an assessment system that informs instruction and evaluates knowledge, skills, performance, and dispositions needed in the 21st century. Students will be enrolled in a course of study designed to prepare them to begin their lifetime driving experiences with needed basics, and we'll provide that to them through the electronic curriculum. Local program will reflect local goals and initiatives in the presentation of the program, including technology. And I believe that's the end of the first one.
Can I
yes.
ask for a clarification on
Yes.
the first one, the 70%?
Yes.
So what we're saying is that we will not or we cannot
At
offer
least-
the opportunity to the other 30.
So we're going to at least 70%.
So do we have the ability?
Insert at least in front of that.
Do we have the ability to offer the opportunities to more than 70%?
Yes. What we'll add at least 70% of the students in front of that. Does that work?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
And I know that this hasn't happened since I've been here, of course, but if 100% of the students opted to take the opportunity for driver ed, could we offer the course to 100% of the students
Yes.
that are eligible?
Yes. For this goal, at least 70%.
Okay.
At least 70%. So we're basically setting 70% as the bar, as what the minimum is for LEAs to offer to the program. Got me?
So are you saying that at least 70% will take the course or take driver's ed?
Yes.
So
This-
that's
the-
the wording is
the-
off.
The opportunity there is the wording, I think, that I'm thinking of. So to me, it says that we're only offering the opportunity to at least 70%.
All students should have the opportunity, right?
Right.
They
If
all-
we can, if we have the ability to offer it, the opportunity to all students, I see what you're going for here. It just seems to me the wording may be a little off here.
Okay.
So are you proposing we'll have, instead of have the opportunity to experience,
They
would it
will
be-
experience.
would take advantage of the opportunity to, or to, Something of that nature.
Because we're offering it to 100% of the students
Yes.
who are eligible. But what you're trying to say is of that 100%, at least 70 will actually take advantage or will actually experience.
Or 70% of the students will complete a quality driver
Right.
education course offered, something to that extent.
Is that what you're trying to say? Because we don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, that's what this committee is doing, is that's what we
Okay.
want to do. I'm looking for words to make sure, because I know a lot, I tell people, I know a lot about driver education, but I don't know everything. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to set a goal that we can make sure that we measure. And the program is required to be offered at every LEA, and we want to say that at least 70% of the students will take the course there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All students have an opportunity, but a goal is
So we just-
70%.
I can tell you in Wake County, 100% of the eligible students who have not yet completed driver's ed have the opportunity to take driver's ed in Wake County. So I just want to make sure with the wording.
Okay, so does this work? At least 70% of the students will complete a quality driver education program offered at the local level.
Yes.
That works.
Yeah,
All right.
that's better for me.
That's why y'all are here. Thank you very much. Any other changes to that one? Student achievement, students will be enrolled, local program will.
What about the last one? Local program will reflect goals and initiatives in the presentation of the program, including technology.
The local boards of education also have guides and goals and initiatives and so that we want the programs to reflect those same goals and initiatives at the local level. Every district has the ability to have their own goals and initiatives. Is that?
Yeah, but it seems to me like that the goals and initiatives to be in compliance with the statewide strategic plan versus local goals and initiatives. But I don't know.
Don't want to confuse you. The State Board of Education still sets the policy for the program. But the programs, and this is for every course of study.
Yeah.
This is for everything.
Right.
But the local boards of education goals and initiatives should be reflected in the program as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So one of the things too, in Wake County, and I know this isn't the same in a lot of counties, we already have an online portion of our curriculum that we use as another resource for our teacher. We don't ever want a live teacher to be, we always want a live teacher to be the #1 resource for the students, but while we're differentiating instruction for students, we do have an online component, which means we have the computers and the technology to, at every school to adhere to that. I know not every other LEA does that or adheres to that or has the resources to do that. So there's a difference in the presentation of the program with regard to Wake County and some others.
Okay.
All right, I'm with you.
Goal 2.
Okay, go ahead and move forward.
Students will be taught by properly certified driver education professionals. Every teacher will have the training and skills to deliver current content in the 21st century context with 21st century tools and technology that guarantees student learning. Educational professionals will make decisions in collaboration with parents, students, businesses, educational institutions, and faith-based and other community and civic organizations to impact their student success. Every student professional will receive preparation in the interconnectedness of the world with the knowledge and skills. Every educational professional will have 21st century preparation and access to ongoing high-quality professional development aligned with DPI and DMV priorities. What we have done here is the State Board of Education has goals that we have adopted and massaged, if you will, to meet or reflect the standards in driver education. Without any questions regarding those, we'll move forward.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, but I have one.
Okay.
The third one, can you kind of share your thoughts with regard to receiving preparation on the interconnectedness of the world with knowledge and skills? I mean, what?
Basically, what we will do is we're going to have the teacher certification program that we've got will take care of all of that for us. That's a very quick answer.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Goal 3, go back down a little bit. Students will be taught in an environment representative of the district. Every learning environment will be inviting, respectful, supportive, inclusive, and flexible for student success. And you saw that we just had a update in our state board policy to reflect that as well. Going down. Every school provides an environment in which each child has positive, nurturing relationships with caring adults. Every school reflects a culture of learning that empowers and prepares students to be lifelong learners. Goal 4, leadership will guide innovation. School professionals will collaborate with the national and international partners to discover innovative, transformational strategies that will facilitate change and move barriers for the 21st century learner, learning and understand global connections. School leaders will create a culture that embraces change and promotes dynamic, continuous improvement. Educational professionals will collaborate with parents, students, businesses, educational institutions, and other community and civic organizations to impact student success. We're going to have some, obviously, community involvement. Goal 5, program oversight will be governed and is appropriate to state and local guidelines. Processes are in place for financial planning and budgeting that focus on resource attainment and alignment with priorities to maximize student achievement. Information and physical accountability systems are capable of collecting relevant data and reporting strategic and operational results. Procedures are in place to support and sanction schools that are not meeting state standards for student achievement. Without any further discussion, we would like to offer these to adopt as our performance measures as we will put these in the updated strategic plan. We don't need to send these before the State Board of Education for approval. Once that new updated strategic plan is in place, they will approve that at one time. Again, these are goals. This committee can massage those or add to whenever we need to do that.
Are there any further questions or points of concern about any of these, any of this information before we put it for approval? Okay, do I have a motion to approve these and adopt these as part of the strategic plan for driver education? Okay, Martin Rickman, and do I have a second? Second. Okay. Mr. Logan, okay.
Thank you very much. Vote.
Okay, we need to take a vote. Okay, all right, so all in approval, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
I know that was kind of a tedious process, but the formality of it is needed. These will be in place and gives us some support from this committee as we continue to move forward with addressing state board policy and providing oversight at the district level. I yield back the balance of my time.
All right. We are getting to the end of this, guys, and I appreciate, we're at 1 o'clock. We want to keep this meeting, even though we had our interruption, we want to keep this meeting where it was scheduled. We are, with regard to subcommittees, we've covered just about everything, including the performance measure adoption now, but I want to go down to the bottom where we have a subcommittee of parent involvement. And ultimately, I'm grateful that we have Sarah here because she's going to be part of this conversation moving forward. But Natalie O'Brien, who she works for the Highway Research Center at UNC, they have been piloting a parent involvement program. It's already been piloted in Johnston County, and starting in January, they'll start piloting in Wake County. There are not a whole ton of details as of yet, as it's still in the planning phases, but what they want to do is they want to have the Post Center is involved with a grant, as well as the Research Center at UNC, and they want to have a structured parent meeting where all the things that a parent would need to know after driver education would be covered. We have LEAs that have voluntary parent parent meetings after driver ed. We have a couple of LEAs that have mandatory parent meetings, but we want to make this a little bit more widespread statewide with regard to a program for parent involvement. We need parents to understand their responsibilities. Once we give them their 30 hours of classroom and their 6 hours behind the wheel, those parents get the next 60 hours of driving instruction with those kids. And we want parents to understand what their responsibilities are, what the next steps are, all the logistical steps with the DMV. But there are also a couple of things, some data points that UNC is trying to get with regard to data. They want to, and again, I'm not aware of all of those data points. I know they want to get parents' input on, they want to present with regards to safe vehicles for teenagers, as we have this culture of, and I'm just as guilty, well, I guess I'm guilty of the rest, I don't know yet, but my son is turning 14 and a half, and the car I have for him is a 2003 vehicle with 6 figures in miles, and it doesn't have all the safety features that a 2014 or newer vehicle might have. And so that's where UNC Research wants to come in, and they don't know if they can change that culture that has been, that's the way I grew up and got an old car, and that's the way my son's getting his car, and so there's a culture there. But they want to see they want to get parents' input on getting newer drivers into safer and more expensive newer vehicles, and see how that whole dialogue would go down. So that's part of what they're going to present and what they're presenting in their parent model. I'm interested to see how it goes. We have 2 high schools that we're going to go ahead and pilot this at in Wake County starting in January, and from now to then, that's what they're doing, is they're preparing their presentation, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to look like before January. So, yes.
So let me make sure I understood.
Yeah.
They're going to present information related to safer vehicles and find out from parents their perspective on buying cars that are newer and more expensive.
That's part of it, yes.
Okay, and so who are the parents that's going to be involved in this? As I think about my friends and where I'm from in Northampton County, a lot of my classmates can't afford to buy their kids a 2014.
And that's the number one thing I brought up in our initial meeting, and they already know that. What they're trying to do is collect data. They know, her words, Natalie's words, and I wish she was here. She's on this committee now. She was unable to be here. Natalie's words were cultured. Like, she understands that this is so deeply rooted within the culture of young drivers. Parents don't necessarily want to give them a newer, more expensive car. Number one, either they can't afford it. Number two, they know the possibility of that kid crashing it. Hold on one sec. So I want to make sure I've addressed her question. So in Wake County, all parents are invited to a parent meeting after the 30-hour, or at the very end, the last day of driver education classroom. It's not mandatory. We get between 75 and 80% of the parents there to talk to them already. So this is just going to be, there's going to be an instructor who adheres to what I need them to say. So for example, I need them to talk about, and I need our teachers' input in that meeting to talk about their responsibility with the DMV and all that logistical stuff. But all of the research center and all the stuff they bring in as well, will be added to that meeting. In the meantime, they also want to have a separate student meeting, which again, I'm not quite sure what that's going to entail just yet. But right now, the way we have it is the parents file into the room, the students are there with them, and they all have the conversation together. Everything that's going to be entailed in that training, in that presentation, I don't know yet. But the second I get it, the next meeting we have, I'll be presenting, and I know Natalie will be here to answer questions and present here in the future as well. But your concerns were also my concerns. I've got a section of this county that probably the parents wouldn't have a problem with that, and I've got a big section of this county that they're like, yeah, well, I'm not doing that because it's going to cost too much money. I understand. Carl, you stood up. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I was going to.
Oh, okay. Sarah?
I've actually met with the Highway Safety Research Center folks about this subject with Poe.
Perfect.
And the idea is not to push parents to think that you have to put your child in a more expensive car, but the idea is because we have so many teens that are so critically injured in road safety accidents, to let parents at least go through a thought process that perhaps if we have 2 cars in the house and one is quote unquote a clunker and one has the more up-to-date safety features, you know, if your child's going to wreck, I understand the financial implications of if your child's going to wreck a car, you would rather it be the clunker car than the nice car. But from your child's health and safety perspective and their ability to continue with a productive lifestyle post-wreck, if they do that, if they have that wreck in a car that has more up-to-date safety features, hopefully they are going to be safer.
So there's the
Less
culture
injured.
shift, right?
Right, and it's
that shift
not,
in thinking.
It's not an attempt to force parents to put your child in a more expensive car. It's an attempt to just make a parent think through the process as you're going to hand the kid a set of keys, which set of keys you're going to hand them, and think about where you're sending them and what safety safety features there are in the vehicle that you're handing them the keys to. That's all that's about. It is not any kind of edict, go buy your kid a brand new car. That's not it at all. It's a thought process for the parent to think about which set of keys you're handing your kid. And if you still choose to hand them the clunker keys, that's fine. Just know that you made that decision.
Thank you, Sarah.
So Devin, to go back to Captain Robinson's concern in the beginning, is that we're responsible for educating all the students, all teens in North Carolina. And there's a need to gather the correct data and put this all together from a lot of different angles. Parental involvement happens to be a very, very critical one because the AAA Foundation did a study and found that I think it was 35% of the crash statistics go down 35% when there's a parent in the car.
And the other response that I have, I just remembered in my last meeting with them. They are putting together an app on a phone app for these parent meetings that they want to do. And as the parents walk in, there will be a URL on the board, and the parents can go in, and it's short. They want to limit it to 10 or 15 questions, but kind of get parents preconceived notions and ideas already about some of these subjects so that they can kind of understand, population-wise and parent-wise where we stand with our thought process with those types of things. So they're going to collect that data, and they're going to ask, there'll be a survey and a questionnaire where they ask some of those questions just to get parents' idea, and it will be completely anonymous. And the results will be fed directly to the research center. We're not doing any paper and pencil surveys. So, yeah.
I remember back in the day where a lot of dealerships throughout the state would provide cars, and they would put in 2,000 or 3,000 miles, and then they sell them as used cars, which would be something good that the dealerships could do, make it less expensive, safer cars, less expensive.
Sure. Yeah, and I know part of the discussion does involve getting dealerships involved in things like that. But again, I don't know how far along they are with all of that. So, okay, moving on. We're at the end here. Does anybody have any new business? Considering 3/4 of us are new to the committee, but does anybody have any questions or new business they want to bring before the committee? Okay, and then conference reports, Carl?
Thank you. As I mentioned before, we had the National American Driver and Traffic Safety Education Association Conference in Chicago this year. North Carolina was very well represented. Also, myself and Reggie attended the ANSTI symposium that was before the conference. We found out that there is a national publication by the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration that cites this board as being the model advisory committee, us and Oregon. So you've got some credentials there across the country. So we're actually noted the policies in place for the program is in that publication. So you should be very proud of that and the committee that you're involved with. I believe that is all that we have to offer today.
Before we adjourn, I just, Carl, do we want the extra 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
A 15-minute meeting after this.
Okay. Before we adjourn, I just want there's some housekeeping things that we need to go over with regard to reimbursement of travel expenses and things like that for you guys. So after we adjourn this meeting, if you guys could stay for another 10 or 15 minutes just so we could give you that information and the documentation for that, that would be great. Is there anything else before we adjourn this meeting? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting? Thank you, Marvin. Can I have a second?
Marvin, Dr. Flood.
Okay, thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Dr. Flood.
And it's,
Okay.
it's Shanae Tanya, not Shantae.
You want to go ahead and pass that?
Is it? Did I mess that up?
Shanae,
Did I mess that up?
Chena.
Sorry.
No problem.
Folks, we appreciate your indulgence in the heat and the extra excitement for the fire alarm that we had out there.